All righty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today's episode is going to be a position group breakdown. We're just going to focus on the safeties today. It's going to be an interesting topic because we've noticed that there aren't too many true safeties listed on the spring roster. It's going to be a good discussion on who we think is going to start, who's going to play a significant amount, and the outlook of that position group. But before we get into it, we've been giving away tickets, and this is another episode. We're giving away a pair of tickets, of general admission tickets, and it's going to be Blake Carpenter, as you can tell on Brandon's board. Congratulations, Blake. Go ahead and either direct message us on Twitter or email us. Probably prefer email if you could. You'll have a week to claim it. So by next Monday, if we didn't hear from you, we'll just give those tickets away. And now we're on to our last and final giveaway. We're going to be giving away club level tickets in the Santee Lounge. We're giving away a pair of tickets. This one, since it's going to be at the club level, we're going to do it over the course of 2 weeks. So while it won't be today or next week, it'll be the week after. I think it's the 18th. We're going to give away the tickets. We'll announce the winner. So, if you want to enter in for that over the next couple weeks, watch our videos. We should be releasing 2 to 3 a week. Make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, turn the notification bell, and do Brandon's in-the-video challenge and like us or follow us on Twitter. Both would be preferred, but understand that not everyone has everything. And so you're going to want to stick towards the end of the video so you can see Brandon's challenge, whatever it is. It's definitely always random. A lot of times it's not even dealing with football. But we're almost at 3,800 subscribers as we're recording this right now. We're like 8 short, I think. Help us get us there. Come on, just hit the subscribe button. It's free. Over half of you don't subscribe. I think it's almost 60% of you do not subscribe to us. And great. We like that you're watching it, but just help us out. You don't even have to, just one button and it's done. So if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter. It's linked in the description below. Okay, we'll get into it. Safeties. So as we were kind of doing some research, something I noticed on the spring game roster list, there's only 2 safeties as their position group listed on this roster. And that's Robert Spears Jennings and Bryson Washington. And then what's also interesting is then the people like Key Lawrence are just listed as defensive back, Billy Bowman, defensive back, Trey Morrison, defensive back. And I'm wondering if that's because they see these guys playing potentially the safety position or maybe a nickel position or even a cornerback position. Basically, guys that can play probably multiple positions, at least 2 out of 3, and someone can play 3 out of 3. I think in my pairing, I think Key Lawrence, I don't think you guys will disagree with me. I think he's going to be, whether he's free or strong safety, I'm not 100% sure. But I see him playing as a starter. And I tend to think that Justin Broyles might be the other safety. I know Trey Morrison could compete for a spot there, but I feel like with Justin Broyles being a redshirt 5th-year guy, been around the program a long time, buying into the Brent Venables in this scheme, I just think his experience and veteran leadership with Key Lawrence now being a junior in his 2nd year with OU, I feel like that'd be a good pairing. While, Broyles and Lawrence aren't the biggest, both at about 6 feet tall. I feel like they would give OU the best chance to win. Brandon, what do you think?
I actually probably agree with both of those two. I think Key Lawrence is a lock. Key Lawrence had a hell of a year last year. Kind of came on a little late, about midway through the season, but once he came on, he was pretty damn good back there in the secondary. So I think he's locked in to start. Like you said, whether it be free or strong, I don't know. And then the other one, I do think Broyles probably gets the nod at first, but I think that other safety spot is going to be not necessarily solidified until week 4 or 5 of the season. I can see Billy Bowman getting an opportunity in game to be that other safety. I can see obviously Broyles. You got Jordan Meeks over there could maybe get in there. Robert Spears Jennings. There's a lot of names. Even Jaden Rowe maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of names I think that can play that opposite safety side of Key Lawrence, and I don't really know who's gonna have it for the whole season. I do agree probably Justin Broyles gets that first opportunity to secure that spot, but I think that spot opposite Key is going to be not locked down until about week 4 or 5 of the season. I see a lot of rotation in the early going.
Yeah, Key Lawrence for sure. But the other one's going to be Trey Morrison. I've been saying it since he transferred. He played a lot of safety at North Carolina, and he's going to play a lot of safety at Oklahoma. When we talk about him, he does bring a lot of versatility. I definitely don't think he's playing outside corner. If he plays anything other than safety, it'll be nickel. But I think he'll be named the starter, and then just depending on the package is when he'll be rotated out or moved to a different spot, because he is smaller. His frame is just overall, he's not as big of a guy. So depending on if they're really trying to defend against the run, then maybe that's a time where he'll be playing at the nickel position, or just not in the field, just to have bigger bodies out there. But he can hit. That's one of the things I've been talking about with him since he did transfer. That dude will absolutely smoke you if you come anywhere near him. So, I think he's the other starter opposite of Key Lawrence.
Yeah, and someone that I feel like, I think I've talked about in previous position group breakdowns of like, if this person doesn't crack into the lineup and get some significant playing time, they might look to transfer. And I think someone that could be in that boat is Bryson Washington. I feel like, he's 6'2", 190 pounds. I mean, he's got the frame. I feel like he's got a lot of hype. I'm on these message boards. I'm reading through. Everyone talks, as asking about Washington. Where is he? Why is he not being talked about more? What's going on? I feel like a lot of people like us and other fans have extremely high hopes and have read great things about Washington and have extremely high hopes for him. But I feel like he just hasn't. I mean, I know it's been COVID and all this other stuff, and now he's the new coaching staff, but still, I feel like there isn't a whole lot of hype from the coaching staff about Washington. I feel like as a redshirt sophomore, he should have more hype. If he was really progressing as far as where he should be, I feel like we would hear about him more. You hear about Key Lawrence, obviously. You hear about even Robert Spears-Jennings. I feel like Spears-Jennings has been getting some hype, and some people have been talking about him. And I think he could play a little bit this year as well. I mean, he has a lot of potential. He's 6'1", 204 as a true freshman. I feel like Washington, if he doesn't get a decent amount of playing time, he might. I think he's going to transfer at the end of this year if he does not get the opportunity to play. And if you can't play, over the first 3 years because one, you redshirt, and I feel like it's not going to get any easier because this defensive coaching staff is going to continue to recruit at the same level and higher.
Yeah, if he's definitely going to be one of those candidates. And someone we haven't mentioned yet is Harrington, just coming back. I wonder how much playing time he's going to be fighting for, because this room, even though it's probably one of the thinnest positions in regards to depth, it's not that bad because, like you mentioned, there's not that many guys that are seen as true safeties on this roster right now. So the coaching staff is open to moving a lot of these guys around and giving them the opportunity to get a starting position or play more time as the safety. So Washington and Harrington are in a similar boat where if you don't make that next step to being a more pivotal part of this defense, you're more than likely, we're going to see them in the transfer portal, and it'll be Harrington's second time, because as we know, it didn't work out this last time for whatever reason. Now he's back on the roster, and it's not going to be any easier for him to get that playing time, especially since he was away from the team for so long.
I think Harrington, Washington, and Jordan Meeks are all in that category of if they don't get to play soon, they're out. I know Jordan Meeks, he's only about to be a sophomore, right? So he's only been here a year. But if he doesn't play this year, it'll be 2 straight years on the bench. And as Bro mentioned, the recruiting doesn't stop. It's just going to get harder and harder to crack the field. I think they're all kind of in that situation where we could see them on the outs, and they all have very good size and speed for that safety spot. I love Justin Harrington's 6'3", 215 size. I kind of would like to see him, win the spot if he earns it, and just because he would have huge size at safety. But I also kind of like the idea of Billy Bowman If Billy Bowman starts, I'd like to see him at free, just because I think he has better ball skills than a Key Lawrence does, and I think he's dangerous with the ball in his hands. He kind of got picked on a little bit at corner last year, but he's playing out of position. Maybe free safety is where he's meant to be, and he can just read the quarterback's eyes and make plays on the ball, because with the ball in his hands, he's scary.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it on Friday's video where we mentioned a little about Justin Harrington. And Jose, you were asking, if he was getting his scholarship back and all that stuff. His scholarship got taken away. He's a walk-on. He's coming back. So I like that whole concept of, while you quit on the other coaching staff, that doesn't change the fact just because we're, the Venables and his staff, you don't just get your scholarship back for quitting midseason. And, there's probably more to the story than we'll ever know. I'm sure there's something going on. There was something going on with the coaching staff. And I mean, to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me. It sounded like there were a lot of players that had problems with various coaches, whether it's a strength coach or position coaches. It seemed like there was some tension with coaching and the players. So with Harrington being back, I mean, at 6'3", like you said, Brandon, he's got the size that you want back there. He can cover everyone. When he transferred in 2020 and he went into the fall camp, the hype around him was so high going into fall camp. We weren't doing this podcast then, but in my mind, I remember reading, I was like, this guy could be a starter, come in, transfer, and start immediately. And while that might not be realistic right now, being away from the game for so long and not playing and being away from the team, it could be. I mean, if you had Lawrence and Harrington back there, both over 6 feet tall, I mean, that's a pretty solid, tandem right there. I also think Robert Spears Jennings, I think he could be huge. Whether it's this year or not, I don't know. But I think Spears Jennings has an extremely high ceiling as a safety. And I think he could be a star before he ends up leaving.
He could definitely be a star. I just don't see him being that much of a contributor this year. I actually think Jordan Meeks might have the opportunity to crack for some playing time, especially like I was mentioning earlier with Trey Morrison, having him out in some, depending on what we're defending against in at a specific moment, if it's against the run, or because I think he would excel more against the pass. Having a bigger body like Meeks might be good at strong to give T that opportunity to be back there in ball hawk, or Billy. I still think Billy is probably a more natural nickel, but if he does excel at the strong safety or free safety position, then why not give him the opportunity? I just think that at this point, this Key Lawrence seems like the only for sure at starting at that position. And even at that, he might not even be a starter at that position. He might be a starter at one of the corner spots or nickel, and we might be seeing a completely different duo at safety that we're not even talking about. If it's Billy or Jordan, or maybe Harrington is able to crack the starting lineup, because like you said, coming in as a transfer in 2020, he did have a lot of hype. He did make good plays whenever he was on the field, but I think he only has 1 year left of eligibility, right? Maybe 2. And if he has 1, it's because of COVID.
I really don't know with him being a transfer and then COVID and missing a year with, did he get a medical red shirt? I don't know if he has a year or 2 left. It's tough to say. I mean, and then Billy Bowman, I don't know if you guys saw, but Brent Venables was talking about Bowman, and basically was talking about how in the old staff, where they had him with injury issues and various other things, had him playing in like 3 or 4 different positions. And he was basically saying, when you do that to someone, let alone a freshman, their confidence and their demeanor kind of gets squashed. Even as a freshman, that typically happens, even if you're at one spot. But if you're getting thrown to play, against in the Big 12, and you're going against great receivers every single week in different spots, you struggle, I feel like, mentally, because you just like, I'm getting beat every single time. So it's going to be interesting to see, because Venables said, I want him to be good at one, or great at one position. Where is that one position? Is it the nickel? Is it a safety spot? I don't know. I really don't know where he's going to go. but he might be the best one. Him and Woody Washington might be the best 2 defensive backs, over the next few years.
I think so. But I mean, it seems like the one thing we know about Billy is he's going to be a key in special teams. And it sounds like he's going to get some reps at kick return or punt return at some point, because I think he was quoted and mentioning that he's excited to tear up the opposing team's special teams on kick return. So we'll see about that. But I mean, I think at this point, I would expect him to just stay at nickel, because Robert Spears Jennings is there, because Key Lawrence can play safety. There is younger talent like him that are kind of more naturally playing the safety position. And coming out of high school, he was a corner, right? He kind of played everywhere. He obviously played wide receiver as well, but it seems like corner just seems more natural for him. So the safety position at that point would kind of be a secondary that where maybe he fills in later on. And someone we haven't mentioned is Rowe. I know that's, again, someone that Brandon's super high on. And if he wants to be an Isaiah Simmons 2.0, he's got to get comfortable at that safety position.
Yeah, and I think he will. I think Jaden Rowe is going to, as I've talked about him in this class, I think he's the best recruit of the 22 class, and he's going to do big things. But the safety spot is just weird this year, as we've just gone over a bunch of thousand times. Key Lawrence is locked in, and other than that, we're out here just taking shots in the dark, because there is a lot of talent in the room. But there's 7 or 8 people, I think, fighting for one spot, and it's going to be fun to see. Hose is high on Trey Morrison. I don't know. I think I don't think anybody really knows outside of the coaching staff who plays that other safety spot.
Yeah. So day one, I came out and said it's going to be Key Lawrence and Broyles. Jose, it's Key Lawrence and Trey Morrison day one. Brandon, are you in the same?
I'm rocking with your Broyles thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Broyles starts initially, at least.
So, okay, at the end of the season, Brandon, who's starting tandem?
Tricky, bud.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
Key Lawrence and Jaden Rowe. Why not? I love me some Jaden Rowe.
That's a hot take. Jose, what do you think?
So I'm going to stick with Trey Morrison. I'm a little iffy. Not that I don't think Key Lawrence is going to keep starting. I think he'll be moved to corner because I don't know anything about where CJ is at this point, because whenever we talked about corners, I predicted CJ would be the starter outside opposite of Woody. I don't know where CJ is at this point. I know that he's going to be a late addition because he's finishing his semester at Wyoming, but that's a lot of time to make up for where some of these guys already have those reps. It's probably something I should have thought of when we were talking about him back then. So maybe Key shifts over to corner at some point, and then we have to slot in someone else at that second safety position.
You know who I think?
Who's it going to be? Hose? Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to think. I feel like
you can't just say.
I want to say, because I really like Meeks, but I think it's going to be Harrington because he was so good before. It's just going to be he needs to make up for a lot of time.
I don't think anybody here would be mad to see that. I mean,
yeah,
finally it's time.
I don't think Lawrence will have to move to corner, because someone that I was under the impression could be a corner or safety, but he's been labeled as a corner is Kenny Walker, being transferred in from Louisville. I think he could crack. I know we haven't done a who dat on him, and we're going to. It's going to be in this group because we're sure of corner safety with him. He seemed like he could have gone either way, but I feel like Walker could provide that bridge rather than Colden, or maybe Colden would. I don't know. He still could, but Walker's already on campus, and he's 6'2", I believe. I don't know. At the end of the year, I'm going to rock with Key Lawrence, and I'm going to still say part of me thinks it's still going to be Justin Broyles that will be the starter at the end. But I still think that there's going to be some interesting packages where they're going to roll out a third safety, like a Jordan Meeks, or even a little bit of maybe Robert Spears Jennings, a bigger personnel package, or throw a Trey Morrison where they're running 5 defensive or 6 defensive backs. I don't know. It's going to be interesting what they're going to do, but I still think I'm going to stick with my top two to start the season. But I don't know. Key Lawrence, I mean, extremely high hopes, extremely high expectations. And I think this spot is where he is the best at, is the safety spot.
We're so far away from like the first game in the fall. Like there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come out. Summer ball is probably going to change a lot of that stuff. So I think we should remember what we said here, try to remember, and people can keep us accountable on this. And then probably right before the season starts, I bet we're going to do video and like predicting the starting lineup before that officially comes out. So let's see how much it changes, because some of this stuff's got to change, especially with the safety position. Like we'll have more clarity on who's actually going to be up for grabs in that spot.
Yeah, and the spring game might be a good preview to it. It might give us an idea. I know they'll probably split the teams, and the depth will be cut, and you'll see. But I think we'll be able to tell a little bit who's going to play. I mean, because Billy Bowman will be a huge factor where we see him play in the spring game, and if he's going to be a safety or not. That will impact this whole video, and we're just kind of shooting in the dark at this point, because Morrison, no one really knew if he was going to be a cornerback or safety, but it seems like he's going to be a safety. Could Billy Bowman be a safety or a corner? It's going to be tough to tell.
It's definitely, it's harder because no one is positioned as a safety on the roster, just outside of those two guys that you mentioned earlier, and Spears, Jennings, and who was the other one?
Bryson Washington.
Outside of that, it seems like they could change the roster tomorrow how it's read, and all the cornerbacks could be DBs, and now everyone's up for grabs for safety's position.
Yeah. While you said earlier that this is a thin position, we got to remember there's only 2 starting spots typically. Probably outside of a few packages, we might have a 3 safety look, kind of a rover type deal. So there's only 2 spots. There's good talent there. Jordan Meeks, he might take the next step. Spears Jennings might be a good surprise. You never know. So do you guys have any final thoughts before Brandon does his indie video challenge? All right, Brandon, let him have it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do. It's a wild group, and I don't think Spears Jennings is going to get the chance this year, but I think a lot of people in our comment section are very high on him, and I think he's going to have a good long career, but it's not. I don't think it's this year. I think Jaden Rowe is better than him, and he's got to beat Jaden Rowe out, because I think Rowe can play that safety spot. I don't know. We'll see. It's a tricky group. I think we all agree Key Lawrence as a starter, and then the rest of it, as we talked all video, we're kind of just out here shooting in the dark. Who are your guys' starting safeties? This will be an actual football-related end of video question for the first time, and it feels like 6 weeks. But yeah, who are we starting at safety this year? Do you guys agree with us with Key Lawrence being penciled in as a starter? And if so, who's opposite? I have a feeling we're going to see a couple RSJs in the comments, because I think a lot who watch the show are RSJ fans, and I mean I am too. I just don't see it this year.
Yeah, I mean, and we're gonna do who-dats on the new guys like Spears Jennings, and I don't know. Do we do one on Justin Harrington? He's not technically new, but he's back on the roster. Probably not. But I mean, we're gonna go in depth. I'm gonna say right here, I don't think Spears Jennings redshirts. I don't think he will. I think he plays enough to where he burns his red shirt. So
You heard it here first.
It's a hot take.
Brum's hot take of the year.
Spears Jennings will not redshirt this fall. So
about a year ago, he also said Micah Bones is going to be our starting quarterback next year. So it's a hot take. It's that time of the year.
He did say that. Micah Bones, 2024 starting quarterback, or 2023 starting quarterback. We were going to make sure it's. That's before anybody watched us, though. So
yeah, I was just saying ridiculous
find that
things.
Because that thing was just ridiculous.
That was a ridiculous take. But yeah, I don't think this one is quite as ridiculous. I think it's realistic, but that's just what I'm thinking. So if you hadn't already, we're almost at 3,800 subscribers. Hit the button, help us out. Do Brandon's in a video challenge. Subscribe, like the video, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, comment done, and with the video in the video challenge on who you think is going to start. And we'll announce the winner on the 18th of April for the Santee Lounge free pair of tickets to the spring game. So make sure to keep watching. We'll have another video coming out Wednesday morning, and we'll catch you next time.